So I want to start this off with a question. How much passive income do you really need? How much is enough? This is a blessed question that every investor will have to tackle at some point in time in their investing journey. But I want to encourage you to actually tackle this now. And if you're at the beginning of your journey, we can actually use some math to figure out the answer to this question. So, I'm your host, Whitney Elkins-Hutten, and welcome to the Passive Investing Made Simple Bootcamp. Here, we teach you every month a new skill to turn your active income and savings into passive income and long-term wealth. So, maybe you've tried investing passively before, but couldn't get comfortable with making the investment, or you actually invested in a deal and discovered it wasn't the right fit. Or you are a seasoned investor and you simply want to level up your skills. If that's you, you're in the right place. Now, if this is the first time you and I are meeting, my name is Whitney Elkins-Hutten, and I've been investing in real estate since 2002 and have scaled a portfolio of active real estate holdings in partnership of about 800 million. That includes several residential units, self-storage units, express car washes, all held in partnership. But that does not include my passive real estate. And that is what's helped me get to financial freedom. Now, I get to spend time with you as the investor at passiveinvesting.com, helping you learn new skills, understand the different investments that are available in the passive investing space, and help you put together your investing plan so you can go into your next deal with confidence. Now, all these metrics that we covered here on the screen has helped me do one thing in my life, achieve one goal. Remember, I stay incredibly focused, which is how do I get 100% control and choice on how I spend my time? And that is what passive investing has given to me. Now, I've documented my journey in my book, Money for Tomorrow: How to Build and Protect Generational Wealth. You can snag that on Amazon or Bigger Pockets if you want to learn more. Or you can join us, better yet, at the Passive Investing Club. There, you get a one-on-one call with me, priority access to our open deals, and of course, all of our free education to help you become a more seasoned investor. So make sure to join us at passiveinvestingwithwhitney.com. Now, let's kick it off here. Before we do, as always, every webinar I do, as well as every webinar that you see in investor groups on YouTube, those are all educational tools. You have to take this information back to your investment team. Okay, so please don't consider any webinar financial advice, tax advice, legal advice. Consult your team before implementing the information. That way you can go into your next investment decision with confidence. Now, today we are going to be breaking down some math, okay? But I want to clue you in on the situation that occurred for me with one of my personal coaching clients, about a year ago. We were on the phone or on a meeting actually, and we were going through her retirement plan. Now, remind you, I am not a financial advisor. I'm just pretty good at math. Anyways, this investor told me that she would be fine on $8,000 a month. We actually stress tested that number by going through all of her financials, her balance sheet. And when we went through her financials, we realized that she had not accounted for inflation at all. She had not accounted for increased healthcare adjustments, and she had not accounted for some her what I like to call offsets in retirement. In the end, her true retirement number was not $8,000 a month, it was $12,000 a month. Had she not gotten super clear on what that number was, she would have only lasted 13 years into retirement before she exhausted her nest egg. Okay, so that gap was $4,000 a month that we had to make up with our investments. That's $48,000 annually, nearly $1 million needed in her portfolio over 20 years that she had not accounted for. Now, here's the real solution, okay, the real situation. Most people do not need more assets. They need to do better math and put their current assets to better work for them. All right, so how do we do that? Well, first, let's understand the true cost of bad math, right? We all can see the numbers, $480,000 shortfall, or even over 20 years can be incredibly shocking. But not just is this a significant deficit? It can lead to delayed retirement. Okay. Poor planning can actually postpone your goals, what you've been working so hard for. Conversely, if we have bad math and we're overshooting the mark, which is not usually what I find with investors, but it can work the other way too. You are deferring your retirement years because you didn't do the math. So let's do the math today. Now, before we dive in, I want you to push pause on this video and I want you to write down what do you think you need on a monthly basis for your income target in retirement? And we're going to stress test that today. All right. Now, coming back, let's walk you through our four-step plan that we're going to go through today. Now, I like keeping things incredibly simple. Of course, there's some uh, you know, tools that you could probably download on, out there, and more sophisticated systems. But this is the rough system, the back of the napkin math that's going to get you like 95% of the way there. So, step number one, you have to know your numbers. Okay. We have to know what your current lifestyle is costing you today. All right. And we aren't going to guess. We are going to get down to that number. We have to adjust that lifestyle for inflation. Now, realistically, we're going to use 3 to 4% annual compounding. All right. And we're going to project out our lifestyle needs for 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. All right. Then we're going to factor in all the offsets. All right. This is a huge step where we either find that the plan's going to work or it's not going to work, and we need to do some serious work in order to get there. Okay. And then we're going to look at how can we invest in certain assets that leverage our time freedom. Okay. Because we want net worth is fantastic, right? But if you're going to retire on a specific net worth, you have to draw down that account. Perhaps a stronger strategy is retiring with a particular cash flow number in mind and allowing your principal to continue to grow. All right, so let's start breaking this down. Step number one, what are your current lifestyle numbers? Okay. And we need to think of this in terms of fixed expenses and variable expenses. Okay. Fixed expenses, these are pretty much non-negotiable costs, okay, that recur monthly or annually. Now, that also means that the number doesn't vary too much, right? So, number one, housing payments. Yes, our housing payments gonna, vary as insurance costs goes up, tax costs go up. But if you've locked in your mortgage, your principal and interest isn't changing for the term of your loan. So that's why we call that a fixed expense. Property taxes and homeowners insurance, we've got a rough idea what those are. They generally do not move in, a whole lot. But those are numbers that we could lower and manipulate if we wanted to. Auto loans, vehicle insurance. Again, those are things that we're going to pay a fixed set amount month over month. But if we can reduce or even eliminate those, that would be great too for our plan. Health insurance premiums is also another fixed cost. Subscription services and memberships, if you have those in your finances, they're a fixed cost every month, right? If you have Apple TV, it is not going to change month to month. But again, that is a number that we can impact if we wanted to bring that down. Okay. And the same thing with utilities and essential services. They tick up slowly over time. They don't, but it is something that we can generally budget for. Variable expenses, these are going to be more of those expenses that are based on our lifestyle choices. Do we spend $15,000 this year traveling, or do we spend $25,000 this year traveling or more? Okay. Your hobbies and recreational activities, dining out, entertainment, gifts, charitable giving, home improvements and upgrades, personal care and wellness. All of those can swing wildly throughout the year. Now, if you're not tracking this already, step number one, make sure that we're tracking it. And then you refer back to my book, Money for Tomorrow, on specific ways that you can get into relationship with your numbers if you don't like how your current lifestyle, how much it's costing you. We can actually impact that and we can align it to what actually makes you happy in life. Okay, because it's not all about just reducing cost, right? We want to make sure that we're reducing the right cost. But let's assume that you know your lifestyle number and that you're okay with it. You've done all the work, you've optimized it. Now we're ready to move on to step two, which is, or before we move on to step two, we've got to challenge our assumptions because a lot of times before we start getting into the higher level math, somebody might look at their expenses and say, you know what? This is what my lifestyle costs now. Maybe it costs me $150,000 a year, but I'm going to spend less in retirement. Okay. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. We don't really know. They might say, I don't need that much, right? Because certain things are going to tick down for me. All right. Maybe that is the case. Maybe your housing will come down. Maybe your children will move out and you don't have that cost anymore. Maybe they have gotten out of school. Maybe you will travel less. But what if it goes the other direction? What if you have higher healthcare costs, right? So we still need to factor all these things in. And then the last assumption that a lot of investors make is like, I don't want to be pigeonholed to any particular number because it just feels so restrictive for me. I encourage you, clarity creates freedom. The clearer we can get on a number, the better the rest of the math works out, the better the plan works out. But here's the cool thing. It is your plan, yours to manipulate the numbers, pull the different levers, okay? And I'll show you how to do that. Okay. So step number two, we have to now take your current number and adjust it for inflation. Now, for this particular example, I used $100,000 a year. Now, for you, that's probably not enough. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but we're going to take this, as a number, because it's a round number and we can do some pretty easy math with it. So we plug this number, $100,000, into an inflation calculator. I love using Smart Assets tool. They have an inflation calculator on their website, and we're going to project what our needs are over 10 years, 20 years, and 30 years. Okay. And we're going to assume a conservative 3 to 4% inflation rate. Now, I understand inflation has gone down as low as 2 and as up as high as 8 and 9. Maybe you're challenging me right now going real inflation, even though we're saying it's 2.4 right now in October of 2025. That's not the case. It's closer to 7%. Put in whatever inflation number you feel matches your situation the best. But annually, averaged over time, usually 3 to 4%, reveals, generally the true magnitude of the future cost associated with inflation. Okay, so we take $100,000, we're going to plug it in the calculator. Right now, it's 2025. We're going to put in 2035, 10 years from now. And that $100,000 need now turns into a $134,000 need. So our portfolio has to kick off $100,000 today, but be able to grow to $134,000 in 10 years. Cash flow kicked off. We extrapolate that out 20 years. Okay. It has to now grow to $180,000 cash flow. There you go. And then in 30 years, it has to grow to $242,000 in cash flow. All right. So most people's heads that I work with, they become deer in headlights and go, oh no, don't stress. Okay. We're going to do some more manipulation with the math. But I want to show you if we don't ever figure out what our true lifestyle costs are going to cost us, make adjustments on how we think we're either going to upsize or downsize our life, we can't actually calculate the true impact inflation will have on our portfolio. Now, there's one other step here that we got to take before we start talking about investments, and that is we have to add up the offsets. And this means what other cash flow sources do we have coming in? All right, so Social Security benefit for a single person or, maybe you're married and you have a spouse or spousal equivalent, okay, we have to take that into account. All right. No matter which political party you follow, Social Security in some form or fashion will probably be there. Now, will it be the 100% benefit that we're all crossing our fingers that, can be figured out? No, I don't know. Maybe it is a little bit less, but we can figure in some sort of Social Security benefit, even if it's reduced to, say, 75%. Pension income. If you work for a company and you get some sort of pension, okay, maybe you will have a outside retirement fund or some sort of income coming in from the company that will give you payout options. Uh, if you're a widower, maybe you get survivor benefits. Maybe you get some sort of cost of living adjustment with your pension, with your Social Security. So even though our need is inflating year over year, our Social Security benefits, our pension benefits might also inflate year over year. That's called cost of living adjustments. And then we got to take into account our existing passive income, say from properties, dividends, royalties, and what's going to continue in retirement. All right. Now, remember, we might have some downsizing benefits that happen as well through retirement. Maybe you've paid off the mortgage on your house. Maybe your children are financially independent now. They're out of school, they're no longer relying on you. Maybe you've paid off the car. Maybe you've eliminated other sources of debt. Okay, make sure that you've add up those offsets too and back them out of the calculation. All right. What we end up with is needing to figure out what we call the gap, the income gap. Okay, this is what the true cash flow need that we need to have happen, right? Our lifestyle is our lifestyle. It's going to cost what it's going to cost. But we need to back out all other income sources that are coming in that are unrelated to our investments, or that are kicking off predictable cash flow for us already. And then that's the gap. The gap is what we need to close. All right, so I wanted you to pause this video, take 60 seconds, make sure that you've calculated your income needs, your offsets, and then now that you're calculating your gap, okay, those future annual expenses minus your offset, that's what you need your portfolio to do. Now, here's the cool thing. This is often the number that people are more comfortable with. They're like, oh, I don't need my portfolio to kick off $100,000 a year. I need it to kick off 40. All right. Let's take a look at some real world examples. Right now, I want to show you positivity here as we go through this, but it is true. The cash flow gap is your number one threat in retirement. If you don't know what you need your investments to cover, you're either overspending or oversaving. And both, as we've already discussed, delay your retirement freedom. So if your annual expenses cost $100,000, you get $60,000 in retirement for Social Security, $40,000 from your pension. Voila, you have no gap. Awesome. Your portfolio can continue to compound, right? Perfect balance to start retirement off of. But as we hit year 10, our cash flow needs go up to $134,000. Now, this calculation assumes that we've gotten zero adjustment in Social Security and zero adjustment in our pension. So now we've got that gap of $34,000. Okay. All right. Now, inflation has created the shortfall for us, but now our portfolio does not actually have to cover $134,000 at 10 years. It just needs to cover 34,000. All right. And then 20 years later, when our annual expenses due to inflation floated up to $180,000, Social Security kicked off 60, pension kicked off 40. Now our gap is $80,000. Okay. Now the gap has more than doubled due to inflation, but we have given our portfolio 20 additional years to grow, which is super awesome. All right. So how do we talked about 4 steps in order to figure out the numbers. I want to give you a bonus 5th step. Okay. I want you to understand how do we start now crafting the portfolio that will meet your goals. And I love, the simplicity of what I call the 3-tier fortress plan. All right. So step number one, make sure you've got all your liquidity and reserve needs met. Okay. So don't invest anything in an illiquid investment that you're going to need back, say, in like 12 to 24 months. Okay. Um, Especially like if it's for a kid's wedding or school or whatever. I definitely stick to the 12-month rule. Okay. This is like your emergency fund. Anything past that, can we divert it into some sort of investment? I like debt funds that kick off steady yields, something between 6 to 10% annualized return. Can we start kicking off cash flow? Now, here's the beauty of it. If we do this in a retirement account, we don't have any tax impact right now because we don't need the cash flow until we retire necessarily. We can allow it to compound so we can get exponential growth there. And then uh, after that, do we have long-term growth assets that will appreciate and continue building our wealth? All right. Now, that's a portfolio structure that I like using, very simple, easy to understand, but the devil is in the details. Okay. So, how do you know which tier you need to build out? Well, consider where are you in your investing journey? Are you still in the accumulation phase, meaning you've got plenty of time to before you actually need your portfolio needs to kick off cash flow? I would say at least 10 years or longer, maybe more like 15 years or longer. Then you could probably tilt more heavy to growth assets. Okay. Are you in the transition phase? Are you within that, say, 10 to 15 years of retirement and you need to start taking some de-risking your portfolio, moving some of those growth assets into cash flowing assets? Or are you really close to the retirement phase and cash flow is imperative? You need that right now. All right. So that's number one. Where are you in your investing journey? And then what type of a passive investment and why do passive investments work in retirement? It's because if we pick the right investment, it can kick off reliable cash flow for us because cash flow pays the bills in retirement. Okay. Otherwise, yes, we can draw down an equity in our portfolio, but we're also, creating sequence of return risk in our portfolio as well. Inflation, real estate investments, passive investments can be relatively inflation resistant, meaning we can raise the income on those assets as expenses continue to grow. Okay, that helps protect your purchasing power. And for most people, passive investments work extremely well in retirement because you want your time and energy back, your time and attention to do other things. You're not wanting to manage your own active real estate. So passive investments can be an amazing opportunity to step into, an asset that continues to grow for you, but also is professionally managed. All right. As we wrap up today, we talked about how do we figure out how much passive income is enough. We walked you through the 4 steps to figure out that calculation. We added in a bonus step to help you figure out where in, how you to craft that portfolio and where you right now in your investment journey might need to focus. And so hopefully you gained today clear direction, the ability to make a confident decision, understand how you can apply this math to protect your lifestyle and at the end, continue to get true freedom for yourself. Now, I wanted to ask the question, we did it, we paused the video a couple times, we had you go through the math. Were you surprised by the gap? Most people are. Most people are a little bit surprised by the income gap because it's generally less than what they were thinking in their head. But here's the thing, unless you did the math, you would not know what you truly needed your portfolio to cover. So let's recap those steps. The 4 steps to get you to understanding how much passive income you need. Got to know your numbers, adjust them for inflation, factor in your offsets, okay, and calculate the gap that will help you get true freedom. All right. Well, thank you for not only taking the time to be with me here today, but taking the time to invest in yourself. I invite you to join us at the Passive Investing Club, unlock your investing potential. Let's hop on a one-on-one call, understand uh, your income gap. How can we help you close that? All right. Make sure to register at passiveinvestingwithwhitney.com.